Hello, Canada. Welcome back to CFL football. 5.5 months after the CFL season ended in Winnipeg with the Grey Cup game, we start the journey with the first preseason game, the Blue Bombers and the Montreal Alouettes.
Well, two teams looking to find their way back into the playoff picture, and for both, the quarterback position will be key. For the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's all about keeping this guy healthy. Drew Willie, 10-14 is Winnipeg's starting QB, but the team did much worse without this guy coming off a knee injury last season. Of course, Kevin Glenn in Montreal, they've got a great stable, very impressive group of young quarterbacks, but here in 2016, they're going to rely on Kevin Glenn, the veteran, if they're going to make the postseason.
Jim Popp is the head coach, general manager of the Montreal Alouettes. Seismic change across the league. So many faces and places. Mike O'Shea back again as the Blue Bombers head coach, trying to improve on a 5-13 record. We talked about changes. How about a big one in Winnipeg? New kicker, former Hamilton Tiger Cat kicker, Justin Medlock, comes west to Winnipeg, will wear number 9 and use that left foot to kick off this preseason game here tonight. Mikhail Davidson, number 88 for the Alouettes, is back to receive. He brings it up near the 26-yard line. There are about 150 ball players out here tonight, partners, so good luck with all of them.
Yeah, we'll get things sorted out. Some familiar faces, of course, Kevin Glenn, one of the elder statesmen of the Canadian Football League, leading the way. Number of veterans in that lineup with him for the Alouettes. He's joined in that backfield by Brandon Rutley to start this game. There you see the receiving corps bolstered by the return of Duron Carter. Along the offensive line, impacted by the departures of Josh Burke in the offseason.
Right away, S.J. Green hauls one in from Kevin Glenn, and Kevin Glenn coming to the Alouettes trade day last year with the hopes that the Alouettes would make the playoffs. The first time since they came back into the Canadian Football League, Dwayne, they didn't make the postseason.
Yeah, but nonetheless, Kevin Glenn with a contract extending beyond 2015 has great value as they try to bring along the young guys, Rakeem Cato, Brandon Bridge returning, and of course the newcomer, arguably the most talked about American rookie coming into the league this season in Vernon Adams.
And guess who's back? Duron Carter. After taking a year to go down south, tried out with the Indianapolis Colts, made the team, was cut by the Colts, comes back north again with the Alouettes, gets to play alongside his cousin, Kenny Stafford, once again.
Yeah, reunited here in Montreal, and Jim Popp made a great observation about Duron Carter and this decision that's somewhat surprising to some to come back to the CFL. As he said, Duron Carter had this sort of sporadic college career where he didn't play a lot, academically ineligible, transferring schools and so on. Spent the first part of his first year in Montreal as a practice roster player. Really, a season and a half in Montreal is about the only football that Duron Carter has played, like in terms of steady game action, over about the last 7 years. So for Duron Carter, he couldn't spend another year not playing, trying to crack an NFL roster. He needed to get somewhere where he was guaranteed to get on the field and do his thing.
Son of Hall of Famer Chris Carter, and we welcome those of you watching on ESPN 3 in the United States tonight. Justin Veltung with return on a 48-yard boot. Minimal return, and the Blue Bombers bring their offense out, and they are hoping to build a wall around this guy this year, Drew Willie.
Yeah, the ongoing theme here in Winnipeg the last couple of years, beginning with some promise, but once Drew Willie went down in each of those 2 seasons since joining the Bombers as a free agent from Saskatchewan, with him, so went the Bomber hopes. They'll tell you what, here in 2016, with Matt Nichols here from day one, they're stronger at the quarterback position. Their scheme will be better. Paul LaPolice making some tweaks. The arrival of Andrew Harris and some upgrades along that offensive line give them a terrific opportunity to be more successful offensively this season. But
you hear the crowd responding, Dwayne.
Yeah, the hometown boy, Andrew Harris, returning in the offseason via free agency after beginning his career with the BC Lions, coming off a 1,000-yard rushing season, and a great receiver out of the backfield as well.
Drew Willie now, his first pass down the sideline and just past the fingertips of Justin Veltung. So the Blue Bombers will go 2 and out here and boot this away.
Veltung the outside in that one-on-one matchup with Mitchell White auditioning to become the full-time boundary corner here for the Alouettes. White had played the field side last year.
Medlock, all-star kicker. Hamilton Tiger Cats last year. Davidson's down very quickly. Preseason football underway north of the border. An unprecedented offseason of change in the Canadian Football League. Montreal actually didn't make as many changes as a lot of other teams, but significant ones in the ins and outs column.
Yeah, and obviously we've talked about that receiving core with Carter and Stafford both returning after a year away. The veteran Javon Johnson, Vaughn Martin, a draft choice from a few years ago. But of course, the biggest name leaving town, Josh Burke, longtime left tackle for this Montreal team.
There's Brandon Rutley. Terrell Sutton not in the lineup tonight. The back home in Montreal, the rushing leader from a year ago. There is a penalty flag. This is likely coming back. A 17-yard gain will be negated, but Brandon Rutley, he's dependable back as well. Goes to number 23 this year. Had worn 33 with the Alouettes. By the way, guess what, partner?
What, Rod?
Double vision tonight. Duplicate numbers
Holding.
for the Alouettes.
Montreal number 51. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Tom Velazzi, our referee tonight. Yeah, remember last year we did one of the preseason games and there were about 10
I think we had 3. I think number 3 was the big one. I think there were 3 number 3s.
Threes.
Yeah.
Classic.
So we mentioned earlier, Rod, the departure of Josh Burke via free agency, but as usual, Jim Popp preparing for that. He had drafted Jacob Ruby, one of 2 first-round picks for the Alouettes a year ago. He steps in at that left tackle spot. He's the guy who will get first shot.
Look out, Kevin Glenn. Rutley has it. Glenn swarmed in the backfield, just got the football away, and he was feeling the heat. Khalil Bass, you know that he had an outstanding season, his first with the Blue Bombers last year, and he was close to getting his first preseason sack.
Khalil Bass picking up right where he left off a year ago. A little miscommunication on that Owls offensive line, with both men crashing down to the inside. With the defensive end, Shayon Green, Bass free off the end to lower the boom on Kevin Glenn. 2nd and 11 now. Glenn is brought down. And there is the Bombers' outstanding player, outstanding Canadian, outstanding defensive player from 2015, Jamal Westerman. Yeah, Mr. Everything a year ago, as we talk about guys picking up where they left off. Jamal Westerman giving Jacob Ruby a quick welcome to the CFL moment here. Great use of hands to get around the edge there by the defensive end out of Rutgers. Westerman, 17 sacks, fumbled snap. Boris Beatty boots it away. Veltung again shakes one way, goes the other on a 47-yard poof, and it's up near the 39-yard line. Bombers bring their offense on the field, and Jamal Westerman knows what that's all about. There was an off-season turnstile at the airport in Winnipeg in the off-season. Look at all these changes. Yeah, a little bit of a shopping spree and addressing a number of needs for this Winnipeg Blue Bomber team. Obviously upgrading their Canadian talent and depth with the likes of Andrew Harris, Keith Joligan, Jeff Keeping. Had some kicking issues last year. Justin Medlock comes in. Upgrades to that receiving core. Taking a little pilfering from the rival Saskatchewan Roughriders with Weston Dressler. Number 12, Ryan Smith. Drew Willie looking for Smith. He's got it. Big gain, and Drew Willie rolling out. Fires a laser to Ryan Smith, his first catch in blue and gold. This is what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were looking for when they went out and got this guy. Big play potential, Ryan Smith. Of course, he and Dressler not the biggest guys, but they bring plenty of this to the table, the threat of that big play. 32-yard gain. Willie shotgun, hands to Harris. Smothered at the 40-yard line. The comparison with Dressler and Ryan Smith quite obviously come from the same region, from the state of North Dakota. One played at State, one played at University of North Dakota, and both played very well wearing green and white. One of the big things Mike O'Shea talked about with the addition of these two guys in terms of their immediate impact is how they've made those around them better, just by the way they practice and so on. He said the way from the first day those guys attack the line of scrimmage with their waggle.
Kyrie's Hebert, former Bomber at one time, now an Alouette the last few seasons, and guy who can get in the middle of it most times. This time almost had the pick.
The dirty bird, Kai Hebert, number 34, dropping into his zone. You just see him all the way running the route with the receiver as he looks into the quarterback's eyes.
Justin Medlock's first boot. Field goal attempt as a Blue Bomber, and Bomber fans are going to like that. Kicking struggles last year. Medlock, his first, albeit preseason. Bomber fans hope it's the first of many. 3-0.
We talked about the new Blue Bomber receivers. This might be about all we see of Weston Dressler today as he's holding on field goals, a little nicked up, so we don't expect him to see any action on offense tonight. But he's looking after the holding duties as he and Justin Medlock are working together for the first time, and the Bombers' new kicker wanted him in there so the two could start getting a little more familiar with one another.
That's what the preseason's about, as Glenn steps back and finds S.J. Green once again. Remember Luke Tasker last year had the task last couple of seasons with Justin Medlock and had to adapt to holding for a left-footed kicker. Could be a bit of a challenge at times as well.
Yeah, everything a little bit backwards, pinning it with your other hand.
There they are, the Bomber Riders. Dressler and Smith. Bombers hoping that they will be key components to a resurgence here in Winnipeg. Second down, short yardage with Rutley taking it close to the 45-yard line.
Mo Leggett getting involved in the action. Moved from free safety into that strong side linebacker position partway through last year.
So it is a first down for the Alouettes, who brought 7 quarterbacks to Winnipeg with them. Kevin Glenn's going to get a lot of time in the first quarter, and we're used to seeing S.J. Green bring that down. That would have been highlight reel stuff for a preseason game. Tried to Velcro that one, could not.
S.J. saving his A material for the regular season.
You can have a 1v1 if you want in the preseason. It just may not have as much clout, correct?
That's right. Now we know Rod Smith will be saving his best catches for midseason as well.
Absolutely. Second down. Bombers rush 3. Glenn with time. Pocket closes. Gets it out, and Duron Carter right at the first down marker. Kevin Glenn developing some chemistry with Duron Carter. Looks like it's going to be short of the marker. 9-yard gain. It's going to be third down.
You see the interesting contrast when you talk about the changes or the new faces in the receiving corps of these two teams. In Montreal, you've got Duron Carter and Kenny Stafford adding a whole lot of height to that group for Kevin Glenn, that trend towards size, length in terms of their pass catchers. Winnipeg Blue Bombers opting for the water bugs in Dressler and Smith. Both equally dangerous.
Canadian quarterback Brandon Bridge, one of the 7 that the Alouettes have here. It's an offside call. Carries the football. Brandon Bridge, who early last season was thrust right into the fray for the Alouettes in another season of quarterback shuffling.
Offside. Winnipeg. 5-yard penalty. First down.
So they'll move the sticks, but expect to see a little more Brandon Bridge, you think, this year?
Yeah, Brandon Bridge opened last season as the number 3 guy for the Montreal Alouettes, and by the second half, before the end of the third quarter of game 1, Brandon Bridge was forced to play after injuries to both Jonathan Crompton and Dan Lefebvre.
Play action. Glenn sprints out again to S.J. Green. Alouettes trying to get some rhythm here. Third catch for S.J. 8-yard gain brings it down to the Winnipeg 43-yard line.
S.J. Green, one of the most consistent receivers in the Canadian Football League, stands to benefit from having Duron Carter around. Usually it's going to be in terms of Carter spreading out defenses, but occasionally, like right here, in terms of a block, Carter at the end of that one caught a piece of the linebacker, Ian Wild.
Bradley goes over the top. Blue Bombers making some changes upstairs as well. Coaching staff and defensive coordinator Richie Hall, and also in their offense with Paul Lapalisse.
Yeah, Richie here in his second season as the Bombers DC. Simplifying the system a little bit this year, though, making it more conducive for some of the younger players.
Kevin Glenn goes down again. Big Adrian Hubbard. Guy who won back-to-back BCF titles with the Crimson Tide has the sack.
Big body coming from the right side of your screen. 6'6", Adrian Hubbard. With the Crimson Tide in sacks in his junior season.
Second 17, swinging it out for the veteran. Nick Lewis, another hurdle, and Nick, who's not as quick as he once was and gets more thick, it seems, every year. Tell you what, still a tough guy to bring down.
Absolutely. Nick Lewis, listed at 240 pounds. We won't give a number, but Jim Popp suggested that he weighed in slightly heavier than that this season. He can still get up over those defenders.
16 yards for Nick Lewis, the veteran, mid-30s now. They'll go again here on this play. 10th play of the drive. Kevin Glenn, now been part of 8 CFL organizations, and they're not getting it this time. Not that time. Brandon Rutley is stuffed. So the Blue Bombers will take over. Khalil Bass. The Bombers stuff Rutley. Turnover and downs here. Winnipeg leads 3-0 preseason football in Manitoba. Back in Winnipeg, a lot of excitement around that young man. And with more on that, let's go to the sideline tonight. Here's Sarah Orlesky. Sarah?
Rod, there certainly is a lot of excitement about what the future may hold for Andrew Harris here in this organization. His picture is all throughout the stadium, the store, a lot of marketing going around him, and a lot of excitement, understandably so. A running back that this team has not had when it comes to experience and credentials in years. When you look between 2012 and 2015, the team used 14 running backs. None of them having much success here. Chad Simpson, the only one to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. Another thing that this team is excited about with Harris is, up to this point, his durability when it comes to his CFL career. Through 6 seasons with BC, he missed only 6 regular season games.
Thank you, Sarah. He is perhaps the ingredient that the Bombers have been looking for so many years. Drew Willie steps back and goes deep for Darvin Adams, and that looked like interference, and yes, sir.
That's a fairly easy call.
So this will move the chains 39 yards. Ramon Taylor is the guilty party.
Pass interference. Montreal number 6. Point of foul. Automatic. First down.
Michigan Wolverine.
And you're going to see Darvin Adams get an outside release here on Taylor, unobstructed. He's running free, gets over the top on him. Well-placed pass by Willie. Taylor with little choice but to run through the receiver.
Drew Willie in trouble now. Rolls out left side, goes sideline, takes a hit, knocked down, and again, Drew Willie, who missed the rest of the season after that August incident, knocking him out of the lineup with a knee injury. Blue Bombers hoping to keep him upright so that he's able to hand the ball or throw the ball to the likes of an Andrew Harris.
Again, continuing to bolster that offensive line. Hope to keep Pat Neufeld at the right guard spot, or excuse me, right tackle spot healthy this season. Suk Chung, Matthias Gosen, a year older, former first-round picks.
There's Harris. This is the space he loves. Andrew Harris up the middle. Harris still turning. Andrew Harris is going to score. Touchdown, Andrew Harris. There is a flag back at the 25-yard line. This might be coming back. Still, it has not taken long for the Winnipegger to find his new home in the end zone.
After the first down, illegal block, Winnipeg number 12. 10-yard penalty, first down.
It's Paul Apolice, we know well, of course. Part of our crew the last few years, the new offensive coordinator, not liking that call.
And we talk about the need to help protect Drew Willie. This is going to be part of it. And Andrew Harris, with his arrival, not only a running back who's a proven and reliable blocker, but also a guy who's a terrific outlet option out of the backfield. Great on those releases. A little bit of a delay there, but a guy who can make some things happen. He's going to give Willie that option when things may break down on the deeper route. Somebody that he can go to and get the ball out of his hands rather than having to take some of those hits.
Justin Velting made the reception, and Paul Apolice takes over from Marcel Belfait here in Winnipeg as the offensive coordinator, and a great offensive mind through the years around the Canadian Football League.
And you look, Lapo's done a couple of stints here in Winnipeg before, generally leading what's been a pretty successful offense for the Blue Bombers, and I truly felt that Lapo, during his last job as an offensive coordinator, which was when he was with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, to me really established himself as the best OC in the league at that time. Now a couple of years away from the sidelines.
Winnipeg number 4. That penalty is declined. Third down.
You know, as we've had the opportunity to get to know Lapo pretty well over the last couple of years.
We're going to miss the coach's playbook.
Well,
can we still go down on the sideline? Like, can we go down right now? Let's go down to Paul Apolice with the coach's playbook.
Yeah, I don't think Lapo's going to divulge any secrets.
Lapo, coach's playbook. No.
But this is a guy who constantly was studying, learning, visiting, talking to other coaches, doing things to try and better himself during his time away from the sidelines.
So Justin Medlock earlier, now Sergio Castillo, who kicked late in the season last year. That is wide, and Duron Carter, who is certainly capable. We've seen him take punts back the distance previously with Montreal, brings this one out of the end zone. So Castillo misses from 44, and it stays at 3-0. Jim Pop back on the hot seat again for the Alouettes last year, taking over from Tom Higgins. The team got off to a rough patch, and Alouettes thought they might be able to turn the tide. Dwayne, it never happened. They finished 6-12. Even with the arrival of the veteran Kevin Glenn to provide some stewardship, could not. Brandon Rutley out of the backfield. How about Kevin Glenn now?
Working on the collection.
Only, I think it's the Edmonton Eskimos, correct?
Yeah.
That's the only team he has not played for.
Well, and Kevin tells me that he has already told Ed Hervey, the Eskimos general manager,
he's going to retire as an Eskimo.
That's right. When he gets to the end, he says, I want that one-day contract, Ed.
Well,
got to complete the set.
8 of 10 so far, and there's a reason he has much coveted. Kevin Glenn through the years has done great things in this league. Rutley is brought down. Ian Wild reels him in. So back to Kevin Glenn for a minute. So it began in Saskatchewan. He ended Winnipeg was in Winnipeg, and it's been around the teams though that he never played with. Toronto, where he was traded for a cup of coffee for a brief time, and Ottawa, where he was part of the expansion draft.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Henry Burris came in, and Kevin Glenn went elsewhere. But Edmonton, the only one missing until the 10th team comes to the Maritimes.
That's right. That's right. I think that's what Kevin's hanging in for.
Glenn, open man again. Samuel Giguère. That's a first down for the Alouettes.
Well, Giguère, the Sherbrooke product. Now in his 9th pro season, a first-round pick back in '08 of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Spent a couple of years in the National Football League.
And through the years in all those uniforms, Kevin Glenn, though, has put up a Hall of Fame career. Getting close to 50,000.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the names on the list, and Kevin Glenn, clearly the most underrated guy on that list. You know, everybody has always kind of looked at Kevin Glenn and felt like he's a great insurance policy, but he's been much more than that.
The only significant difference with all those names on that list, Kevin Glenn has one thing that all of those guys have. Grey Cup ring.
Looking for the ring.
Not for a lack of trying. Was with the Blue Bombers in '07. They lost to Saskatchewan. Broken elbow, of course, couldn't play the Grey Cup game. 2012 with Calgary. They lost to Toronto, so Kevin Glenn still searching for that elusive ring. And with him, the #1 guy on that list, who's now his coach.
Yeah, Anthony Calvillo, taking over late last season as the offensive coordinator. You know, and Jim Popp says even in his short time as a coach, he's really seen the growth in Anthony Calvillo. Says one of the big things that AC has learned, and now with a season under his belt, is really to speak up more, quite frankly. I mean, this is a guy who's had one of, if not the most illustrious career in CFL history. People want to hear from him.
Well, Kevin Glenn threads the needle again, another completion. Alouettes driving. Bombers, though, leading after 1 quarter. Preseason football tonight on TSN. Back at Investors Group Field in Winnipeg. Do we do stats in preseason football? I guess you do. Do you keep them? Did you keep your stats in preseason?
I needed to collect all the stats I could.
Okay.
Yeah, beggars could not be choosers.
Well, 3-0 score.
I still keep stats playing in the backyard with my kids.
Do you?
Seriously. Rushed for 1,000 last summer.
Well, again, I think preseason football is what it is because it gives you a sense of what is ahead, and it's obviously an evaluation time, and especially for these two teams who made some significant changes in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still kind of trying to figure out exactly what you've got, exactly how the pieces fit together. And we're seeing some flashes, but at the same time, it's so early, especially for offenses, to have things figured out and to develop that chemistry. But we've seen those flashes, a big gainer for Ryan Smith in this ball game. Andrew Harris making a big play as well, even though a portion of it called back by penalty.
Kevin Glenn's looked awfully good. Vintage Kevin Glenn, and it's only a preseason game. We're probably not going to see much more of Kevin Glenn. You know, they'll likely get some rhythm again with Duron Carter coming in here. But again, Jim Popp brought 7 quarterbacks to Winnipeg, and they're going to give everybody a good look.
You know, Blackie, when you go back to opening week last season, he needed all 3.
He needed 7.
You know, you can't blame Jim if he was a little nervous and he tried to pack them all on the plane this time.
Glenn fires again, once again with Duron Carter.
Really, when you look at the Montreal depth chart at that quarterback position, really he's got 5 guys. Kevin Glenn's going to be the starter, and then he's got 4 young guys who are competing for spots. You don't know who's going to be number 2, who's going to be number 3. There you see Brandon Bridge. We talked a little bit earlier about Vernon Adams. We've talked about Rakeem Cato. Not to be overlooked, Taj Boyd, a guy who spent a little bit of time last season with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, former Clemson stuff.
Glenn was looking for Kenny Stafford high over his head, and looked like a bit of a miscommunication there. Stafford, how about his trip last year? He goes west to Edmonton for Fred Stamps. Goes there, has an unbelievable season, one of the CFL leaders in receptions and touchdowns, and comes back with a great covering.
Yeah, not a bad way to spend the year. And Kenny Stafford was a guy Jim Popp suggested never really wanted to give him up. He always liked Kenny Stafford, but he desperately needed a veteran guy last year, and that was the price Edmonton wanted for Fred Stamps.
Kevin Glenn squirms out of trouble. Glenn now down near the 10-yard line, close to a first down, and that's one thing that Kevin Glenn occasionally will still do.
Yeah, a guy who's never really been known as a runner, and in some circles that would be the thing Kevin Glenn has perhaps been most criticized for, is hanging in the pocket a little bit too long sometimes. But a veteran guy with a good understanding of when to take off.
36 years young, Kevin Glenn. Now another short yardage play. Remember the last time they tried it on third down? Brandon Rutley was stopped, but Brandon Bridge will use that long, tall body of his and try to get there, and I think the third effort will do it for him. The Alouettes will bring the rest of their offense on the field and continue this drive here early in the second quarter. CFL preseason football tonight, the first of the preseason in Winnipeg. The regular season 15 days away.
And decisions need to be made quickly around the Canadian Football League. Relatively short training camps.
Khalil Bass eyes up Kevin Glenn. Glenn now. S.J. Green try to one-hand another. Watched by Bruce Johnson in the area. So it'll be second down and goal.
It'll be interesting to see how long some of the veteran guys continue on. Typically you expect a lot of the starters, particularly your veteran starters, to go about a quarter. Now these guys in the middle of a series, you're typically going to let them finish that series. But wouldn't surprise me at all to see, however this one finishes up, this being the end of Kevin Glenn's evening.
Glenn backpedals again. Goes end zone, a wobbler, and again an overthrow, and again a miscommunication, but a late penalty flag on the goal line. Let's see what this is about. Glenn will stay on and listen to Tom Valese. Might have another crack here. The fact that
illegal
receiver
contact.
was so far off.
Winnipeg number 25, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Man, that's one of the reasons that ball was so deep. So Bruce Johnson penalized for this.
And you're going to see the two receivers sort of cross their paths here. Sam Giguère is trying to come underneath, switching with Stafford as Bruce Johnson, the halfback, goes to pick him up. There you see a grab, hands around the back by the defender. And that leads to the flag and the ball getting marched in a little closer here for the Als offense.
So Rutley beside Glenn. First and goal, Alouettes. Little alley-oop looking for Duron Carter. Chris Randall supplying the coverage out in the corner there. Carter going high. And Kevin Glenn, I would think that's something he hasn't had too many options of the last little while when you think back to his Hamilton days, when he had a couple of those tallish receivers that could go up and do that.
Yeah, no shortage of big targets here. Green, Carter, Stafford. The jump ball may become a big part of Kevin Glenn's repertoire. That one well played, though, by Chris Randall. Former Calgary Stampeder, very versatile guy. He's playing the boundary corner here, expected to start field side when Johnny Adams returns.
Glenn again, touchdown, Nick Lewis. Nick Lewis finds the end zone. Long drive, aided by some penalties. Kevin Glenn, 14 for 18, bucket off. Likely not going to see any more of him tonight in this preseason game. But Kevin Glenn, impressive, and that is what we've seen time and time again. Glenn spent some time, of course, in Calgary when Nick Lewis was in Calgary. They know each other well.
Yeah, quick hitter there. A couple of veterans know how to get it done. Nick Lewis taking advantage of the inside leverage played by the linebacker Mo Leggett.
32.
Using that 200-and-something pound body to shield the defender.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up, everybody in Texas?
Horace Beatty the point after. Nick Lewis the touchdown. Als lead.
It's the Warriors winning. Hey, it's the Warriors winning.
Hey, Nick, we'll get you an update. Where's LeBron at? They haven't even started yet, Nick. You've got a game to play here, man.
Mama, I'm on TV.
Well, Nick Lewis, who had 2 touchdowns last year in the regular season, has 1 in the preseason. And again, I don't think he counts all of these, but Nick Lewis will take this. And you saw some real rhythm from the Alouettes with Kevin Glenn at the helm.
Yeah, they really did. 15-play drive covering 88 yards. Most impressively, perhaps, eating up 6 minutes and 54 seconds on the clock. Time of possession, a huge part of this Canadian game.
Justin Veltung on the return once more. Corralled near the 22-yard line, and Kevin Glenn's done, I'm sure, for the night. So too is Drew Willie as Matt Nichols comes in, and Nichols traded to the Blue Bombers from the Edmonton Eskimos last season after Drew Willie went down, and this is what he did last year.
And Matt Nichols, a guy who had filled in for a stretch when Mike Riley was injured in Edmonton. Upon Riley's return, James Franklin, the youngster, had worked his way into that rotation, making Nichols expendable. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers more than happy to make a deal for the veteran pivot.
Now busting it outside, penalty flag down is Carlos Anderson. Got some time in the preseason last year, got injured. Anderson vying for a spot in the backfield, one of those important spots. Of course, Andrew Harris will be the guy for the Bombers.
Winnipeg number 67, 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
So what did you think? Drew Willie's first outing in quite some time.
Well, again, the numbers aren't huge, but I thought Willie looked all right. Limited action again, but connected on one big play we saw with Ryan Smith, another big play with Andrew Harris. And those are the guys he's kind of looking to get in sync with. Weston Dressler as well, once he makes his return. So some of the things you're really looking for from a Winnipeg Blue Bomber perspective offensively, I think we got to see.
Nichols far side for Veltung. Well, one of the things too is the Bombers just want to protect Drew Willie. There's no secret he's the #1 quarterback in Winnipeg. Their fortunes ride with this guy. And for Drew Willie and Winnipeg, here's what he has done through 2 seasons, and again up until August last year, going out with that knee injury. Nichols brought down. Quinn Evans.
Well, Quinn Evans, a free agent signing from the Calgary Stampeders. Guy who had been a good rotation guy for the Stamps, can play outside and inside on that defensive line, so a good depth guy to have. There you saw him beating Pat Neufeld, the right tackle, with a little outside in move, slicing inside on him.
High kick dropped by Davidson, and he was able to pick it up. (7-3) ball game.
Good job, baby.
Duron Carter's night is done. Welcome back, Carter, and here's Sarah Orlesky.
Well, Rod, I don't think that Duron will be too happy about that. He was hoping to play the entire first half. He was so anxious to get back out onto the field. When I asked him about coming back up here to the CFL after spending last year down with the Indianapolis Colts in their practice roster, he said it is all about playing football. That is all that he wants to do. He is very excited to be working with a veteran quarterback in Kevin Glenn. Kevin Glenn having nothing but good things to say about Carter so far. He said he's the type of receiver that you love to throw to as a quarterback, and a lot of what he had heard about Carter and perhaps his attitude, some of the issues that maybe they had beforehand with him, has not turned out to be his experience so far. He says he has been absolutely great to deal with. And mature, or maturing, is one of the words that you hear most often when you describe Carter now compared to what we saw last time he was here in the CFL.
Well, 3 catches, Sarah, for Duron Carter, and we'll be saying his name a lot, Mr. Ford, this season.
Well, one way or another, and in the meantime, another quarterback that Duron Carter's still getting to know, a guy who wasn't here when he left, Rakeem Cato. in the ball game here. From Montreal, Cato, second-year man out of Marshall. Unbelievably successful college career for him. Pressed into action last season. He became the starter for the Alouettes in week 2. Injured late in the season. So, you know, it's an interesting case when you talk about Rakeem Cato, because he was one of the guys that people thought would benefit most from Anthony Calvillo's role in terms of running the offense increasing as last season went on. But really, Cato was hurt at the time that Calvillo became the offensive coordinator.
Jonathan Mincy reversing field, and Cato leading the blocks downfield.
That's those double numbers.
Yeah, Jewel Hampton. One of the 29s that we have here. So Jewel Hampton looks like a jewel here. Look at Rakeem Cato, watch this.
Yeah, Cato carries out the bootleg action, then he's directing traffic, getting out in front. Here you'll see Cato's waving him on.
Come on, come on, come on. Jewel Hampton.
Yeah, I don't really want to block anybody, but run this way.
That was priceless. Cato now back to pass. And looking for Hampton once again. So this B group comes out now after that starting lineup, put up 7. Cato's story well documented last year, and learning under Anthony Calvillo. He was thrust in quickly as well after all the early season injuries.
Calvillo started last season as the receivers coach for the Alouettes, became the quarterbacks coach, eventually the offensive coordinator. You know, and I said earlier how Anthony has really learned early in his career he needs to speak up.
And that is caught. And it's a beauty. Chandler Jones with the touchdown. What a toss from Rakeem Cato.
Well, this is exactly the thing that Jim Popp talks about with Rakeem Cato when he sort of talks about the different relative strengths and weaknesses of his quarterback. He says Rakeem Cato's touch is absolutely remarkable. His ability to drop the ball perfectly in space. And there's a great example of it in amongst 3 defenders. Rakeem Cato lays it in there perfectly where only his receiver, Chandler Jones, can get it.
Boris Beatty trying to help the officials with that convert, but bringing it out for Winnipeg, Quincy McDuffie. So the 32-yard extra point is no good, but the touchdown certainly good. In fact, it was great. Cato lays it in for Chandler Jones. Alouettes offense humming right here. Preseason football tonight.
Rakeem Cato, the second-year quarterback, the busy first series here for the Alouettes. First serving as sort of a lead blocker. A big run by Jewel Hampton. And dropping the dime right there for rookie receiver Chandler Jones for an Alouette touchdown.
I love you, Mom. I love you. Jayla, I love you. It's all for y'all, baby. Non-stop, hard work.
Rakeem Cato, whose arm helped pave the way out of poverty at a young age for him, and went to Marshall, broke so many records. This kick is being penalized since it went out of bounds. Rakeem Cato, who suffered an injury late last season as well, so 3 of 4 for him early on here.
Illegal kickoff, Montreal number 14. Ball will be placed on the 45-yard line. First down.
Rakeem Cato, despite that great rookie season, finds himself in a little bit of competition here amongst that the Alouette QB ranks.
Anderson again. What a nice move. Carlos Anderson brings it to the Montreal 48-yard line.
And Carlos Anderson, a guy who's hoping that the 3rd time's a charm, as this is the 3rd time that he's actually trying out for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. First time coming out of college. Worked out for the team. Bombers elected not to sign him. They kept him on their radar, brought him to camp last year.
Another cut back by Anderson, just gets to the line of scrimmage, just 2 yards. Well, we are 15 days away. The CFL season kicks off June 23rd, Thursday Night Football. Ticats take on the Argonauts. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, across the TSN network and on 4K. For more information on 4K and channel listings, visit tsn.ca/4K, presented by The Brick.
Can't wait to see the Argos in BMO.
It is going to be outstanding. Oh, there's penalty flag. PI, penalty interference, pass interference on Justin Veltun. Number 40 for the Alouettes, Nick Temple. Little too early.
Pass interference, Montreal number 40. 10-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
You mentioned BMO. Have you been down there recently and seen how that stadium has taken shape?
Yeah, I've driven by a few times over the course of the offseason. It's been, as a CFL fan, a lot of fun to watch bit by bit the stadium come together and getting ready for the Argos' arrival.
And of course, home to the Grey Cup this year at BMO Stadium, BMO Field in Toronto. Gerard Shepard with the catch.
And I want to go back a couple plays, Rod, to where you saw the pass interference call against Nick Temple. You realize this is one of the big changes in the Canadian Football League this year regarding those video review challenges, is all aspects basically of the passing game can now be challenged, not just defensive pass interference, but also offensive pass interference, illegal contact as well. All of those things will be reviewed.
Thomas Mayo, California, Pennsylvania. Alum drops it in there and chirping after. And you know, we wouldn't be talking about all this if it wasn't for this guy. Duron Carter, remember, really
years ago.
The CFL started it, video replay on pass interference calls.
Yeah, largely triggered after feeling that the inability to challenge pass interference had impacted the outcome of that playoff game between the Alouettes and Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Sergio Castillo hooks one through. So 1 for 1 is Castillo. In a fight for a job here, of course, with Justin Medlock, it's going to be tough to take that job. Castillo showed last year 10 of 13 coming in late in the season, after Mike O'Shea and the Bombers parted ways with Liram Hajrullahu.
Liram Hajrullahu landing in Toronto during the big free agent shuffle back in February.
See, I think what now has to happen, you know, they have that NHL trade deadline show that there's no more trades that don't happen anymore. I think we have to have a free agent show, because that free agent frenzy day was crazy this year. That one was off the charts. Moving companies did very well.
They certainly did. Certainly did. Unique year. It was really sort of the first class of free agents, first full class of free agents under the new rules with no option year on contracts.
There he goes again. Jewel Hampton from Rakeem Cato standing in.
Jewel Hampton, number 29A.
29A, and we have 29B, and we don't have any numbers that are three-way like we had last year. It's very much like a college game in the United States, is it not?
The challenge, of course, comes when you've got too many players who require eligible numbers. You end up having to double some of them up at this time of year.
Quick drop, Cato. Brought down as they got a hold of that jersey. Penalty flag as well, looked like a hold in the backfield.
Holding, Montreal number 54. That penalty be declined, third down.
Nate Collins was in on the play, so too Trent Corney, second round pick for the Bombers.
Yeah, the guy credited with that sack, Trent Corney, number 43, Bombers' second-round pick this year. Defensive end out of the University of Virginia from Thousand Islands.
Rockville, Ontario, just east of Toronto and Kingston area. Cato, nice play, and there he is again. The jewel, and a good play made. Tony Burnett brings him down in his tracks. It's the 3-minute warning before halftime. It's 13-6 Montreal. CFL on TSN. Preseason football continues.
Rod Smith, Milt Stegall getting set for halftime. Milt standing where Paul LaPolice used to stand for his coach's playbook. We're going to talk more about his offense, the newcomers of Winnipeg, and also a certain veteran of the Alouettes who once made a baby cry. A few minutes away. Back to Rod and Dwayne.
Big nut.
Yes, he did he not?
How about the Milt Stegall show?
Yeah. Well, he deserves one. Boris Beatty is back. Alouettes put it back to the Bombers. .42-yard kick handled by Quincy McDuffie, the former Hamilton Tiger Cat. Has played sparingly the last couple of seasons. 18-yard return for McDuffie.
As the Winnipeg Blue Bombers look to rebuild this team, one of the keys has been adding some Canadian depth. You just saw number 9 overall pick, first pick of the second round, Trent Corney, collect a sack. A couple other guys in very good position to make this team. Michael Couture, offensive lineman out of Simon Fraser. Taylor Loeffler, DB, who'll back up at safety out of UBC. Shane Gauthier also turning some heads, Laval linebacker.
Dominic Davis is in the game at quarterback for the Blue Bombers. Third quarterback of the night now.
Chatted briefly with Matt Nichols yesterday, and he didn't think he was going to play a whole lot today, as he thought they were going to try and audition more for that number 3 spot and give some of the younger guys a little more opportunity. Dominic Davis got some action late last season. One of the guys in the mix. East Carolina product.
And off up the gut this time to Tim Flanders. Getting a touch now.
Davis, a little bit of a changeup from Drew Willie and Matt Nichols, in that he's a more mobile quarterback, a guy with whom you're going to move the pocket a little bit more. So could provide something of a changeup for Paul LaPolice within that offense. Could be a bit of a package guy.
Good wrap up that time.
How about Lapo, all smiles down there on the sidelines?
Nick Shorthill, the tackle. Well, as much as Paul LaPolice, and we loved having him around, there's an old saying that a coach is a coach is a coach is a coach, and he is a coach.
Yeah, no question about that. I think Mike O'Shea happy to have Lapo's experience as well, a guy who spent a couple years as not just a head coach in this league, but in this market. Great resource to have for a relatively young coach like O'Shea.
Great catch, but this is coming back. It looks like Thomas Mayo goes up high, but it looked like Veltung on the far side may have been offside. And it looks like Jeff Keeping is down on the turf and holding his leg.
Offside. Winnipeg number 0. 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
This is the worst fear as a coach or as a general manager you have in preseason football, particularly around a veteran player that you went out and got, like Jeff Keeping. A guy they need so desperately. Long time Argo. Look at concern from Mike O'Shea.
This is a nasty one. You're going to keep an eye on Keeping right in the middle of the action, but also watch the left guard, number 64, Jamarcus Hardwick, as he tries to pick up that twist, and that is a big body falling on the outside of Jeff Keeping's left leg.
Just buckled him. Oh, O'Shea is going to come out and talk with Keeping as well. One of those big changes we talked about for the Blue Bombers in the offseason was going out and getting Jeff Keeping, former All-Star back in 2013, a Grey Cup champion with the Argos, really one of the anchors of that Argo offensive line for so many years.
Yeah, Jeff Keeping, a guy came into this league as a tight end in college at Western, outstanding tight end, but made the move to offensive line upon coming into the league. He's one of those guys that Mike O'Shea knew from their time together in Toronto. They were both teammates.
Look at this.
In Toronto, and spent time with O'Shea as a coach, Keeping as a player. The kind of guy that Mike O'Shea knew, this is the kind of guy I want to have around my locker room to be an influence on my young guys.
He's grimacing as he's coming off this field. And
yeah, they don't make him much tougher than Jeff Keeping.
No, he wants to do it himself. Limps to that sideline. We'll try to get an update from Sarah. Clearly, though, that video evidence was scary. There's an offside call on that last play. It's 2nd down and 13 yards. Davis back in the pocket here. It's shotgun. Sends out 6. Over the top and almost brought in. Wanted an interference. Now we got a late flag here, as there was some tussling in the backfield. Flanders trying to make the catch, could not. Wanted the interference call, and Winnipeg saying it's against Montreal.
Major foul, roughing, Montreal number 94. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
Wayne Evans was getting into it in the backfield and was getting close to Dominic Davis as well. Down to the Montreal 45-yard line. Minute 14 to go before halftime.
Well, and Evans will get a talking to over on the sidelines after that one.
Al Chauffour here. McDuffie takes off right side. Sweeping right, now cutting back left, and then twisted back down. May have picked up 3.
McDuffie, one of the less hyped free agent signings for the Bombers this offseason. Spent the last couple of years essentially as Brandon Banks' understudy in Hamilton. But McDuffie in limited action did some damage as a return man himself. Recording a touchdown on special teams.
That's a tough job. That's like being Milt Stiegel's understudy. As Jeff Keeping makes his way to the locker room. Again, we'll try to get an update. Flanders. What a move there. And a fumble football. And after all that, Montreal has it. Coming up with it is Greg Henderson, 19B.
Ball security here. Mitchell White with a recovery and a little rip on the way down to the turf.
The ruling on the field is a fumble recovered by Montreal. 1st down.
Turnovers automatically reviewed here in the CFL. It appeared that one was out a split second before Mr. Flanders, no relation to Ned, gets his knee down. Close though. Keep an eye on the knee here.
I think it's just out. Crowd reacts. They see it on the big screen here.
Yeah, very close. What's that left knee?
Well, boy.
See, I think Winnipeg could have a case here.
Yeah. Now that's down there. Is the ball out, or does he still have it?
I mean, even a couple frames earlier,
it's out there.
It looks like that knee might be down.
Right there.
See, there you can see, though, Flanders' arm is still around the ball right there. And the knee, to me, is down. So very, very close. So it's just a matter of what is deemed conclusive or inconclusive. I, of course, have no say.
After review, it was ruled the Winnipeg player was down before he fumbled.
There they go.
The ball will be placed at the 31-yard line. 1st down.
See, you got your preseason game face on.
That's right. Nailed it.
You said you don't keep stats in preseason, but I got you're one for one.
Beggars can't be choosers, Blackie.
You're one for one.
Undefeated, baby.
Undefeated. Well, the Bomber fans were right as well. So 10 yards after that, Flanders with those colored dreads beneath that helmet. Davis handing it off again. They're taking a look at a few backs here tonight. And again, Andrew Harris, the guy who they went out and got, who changes the ratio, of course, for the Blue Bombers. In that Canadian back.
And they've got a little bit of flexibility with the addition of guys like Harris and Sholigan, guys who play positions where they didn't start Canadians a year ago.
Oh, he's got it. And they're saying he's down. Thomas Mayo goes to the end zone. He's made a couple of great grabs already. Watch this one. Thomas Mayo just hanging on. And saying he's down. The Bombers now line it up quickly. First and goal. And a handoff and try to scrap his way to that end zone. Is Flanders. With just 2 seconds to go here.
Bombers quickly get the timeout in here.
And there is no doubt this is preseason football. They are going for this all the way.
It's a nice piece of concentration by Mr. Mayo.
Mayo, who spent some time in the NFL on practice rosters with the Jets and Giants, played in the AFL and the IFL, Indoor Football League. So here it is, barring a penalty, final play of the first half, and the Bombers trying to find pay dirt. Davis, Flanders, no signal, still no signal, and I'm not sure there's going to be a signal. It looks like the Blue Bombers did not get there. Oh, they say it's a touchdown now. Well, that took a long time. But the wait is worth it for Bomber fans. Let's see. They review every scoring play as well.
A very, very close call. Running back disappears into the pile, but just over the, just needs to break the front plane of that goal line.
Has to be even the nose of the football, so they're looking at this one. So Tim Flanders, in his first couple of touches in the Canadian Football League, already has a couple of reviews to his credit. Okay, you put your 1 for 1 on the line here. Touchdown or not. Look at you. Look at you.
Well, we know how Jim Pop feels. Bombers are trying to get out there and line up and boot that extra point. Called a scoring play, so of course that is immediately going to be reviewed.
Tim Flanders spent some time with the BC Lions 2015, had one game rather, 3 carries and 15 yards out of Sam Houston State, so trying to find a job here in Winnipeg.
Flanders, 3-time finalist for the Walter Payton Award.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
That's what I was going to say. 2 for 2.
Yeah. Jim Pop can chuckle at that as well. So Justin Medlock, 32-yard extra point. Weston Dressler the hold. Dressler just doing holding tonight. And at the half, tied at 13. Preseason football. Dwayne Ford perfect on reviews.
Welcome back inside our CFL and TSN preseason studio. You got Rod Smith along with Milt Stegall, and to talk about this game, what we have seen so far, and wanted to talk about newcomers for the Bombers. Obviously, terrible sight in Jeff Keeping leaving the field there. I mean, they added him from veteran experience for the offensive line, hoping it is not serious. But who has impressed you among the newcomers to Winnipeg so far?
Well, the Blue Bombers, they went out and they spent a lot of money on some special free agents, and these guys are showing up. And I know this is just the first quarter or the first half of the first preseason game, but to much is given, much is expected. You start right here with Ryan Smith. He's short in stature, but this guy's going to make big plays. Weston Dressler's not playing today, but they're expecting the same thing. Justin Metlock, maybe the best kicker in the game. You get to the 40-yard line, he's automatic. And then the two big guys up front, Sholigan and Cummins, making some big plays on the 3rd and 1 stopping them. But I think the most important piece is that man right there, Andrew Harris. He's back home playing in his hometown, and they're expecting some big things from him. You see this run right here? There was a flag on the play, but this guy is elusive. He makes big plays all the time, and they're expecting a lot out of these guys. Paul LaPolice has a lot to work with. This Winnipeg Blue Bombers have a lot to work with because they did some good things in the offseason.
As for the quarterback situation for Montreal, a couple of nice touchdown passes. Rakeem Cato, that one to Chandler Jones was great touch. Kevin Glenn, though, looking like the veteran he is, 14-19, 140 yards, and a touchdown pass to a guy who's near and dear to your heart, isn't he?
Thick Nick Lewis. And this is a special guy. People say, well, he's getting too thick. He can't get it done anymore. Well, if I'm a coach, if I'm a GM, I'm going to sign this guy. He's special when he gets the ball in his hands. You look at this play right here, just a nice little chip pass to Nick Lewis, and you look at this. 1.1 feet, that's being generous. Nick can't jump that high, but no one's going to step in from him. That's a good business move. But this guy, all serious, he can make plays. He's tough. Yeah, they have some great receivers, Green, Carter, Stafford, but I guarantee you, in a tough situation, Kevin Glenn is going to look to Nick Lewis because he's reliable, he's played with him before, and he's been getting it done for over a decade.
1.1 feet. Wonder if I could do that.
No, that was generous. 1.1 inches, maybe.
You're such a fan of Nick Lewis that you even threw the flag at the baby when he made the baby cry a year ago. Well, just the importance of the W. I know it's preseason. We got a tie game now at the half. Mike O'Shea talked about this, that even though it is preseason, to get the winning culture back, especially in Winnipeg.
It's important for both of these teams, but especially Winnipeg. They haven't been in the playoffs, 4 or 5 years? So every time you step on the field, I don't care if it's practice, walk through, preseason game, whatever it is, you're trying to win so you can build up that confidence. Because once you build up that confidence, you can do a lot of things. And the fans want to see some good players out there. I know it's preseason and you're trying to do a couple of different things. Paul LaPolice is being vanilla, but they still need to have some success. And so far this first half, they're doing that. But they have to continue it the second half and into the next game and carry it on to the regular season game. Because this is a big year, not only for this team, for this organization, for the entire city of Winnipeg.
And we saw the first teams for both of these teams for more than a quarter, the Alouettes finishing off that touchdown drive. And by the way, they will square off again very soon when they start playing for keeps in week 1. It will be Montreal at Winnipeg. That'll be on June the 24th, just 16 days away. This is preseason play, though. We get a little 3 downs coming up with Stegall, and Stegall here on the CFL on TSN.
Welcome back to CFL football. Glenn is brought down, and there is the Bombers' outstanding player, Jamal Westerman. Glenn again, touchdown, Nick Lewis. Kevin Glenn, 14 for 18, bucket off, and that is caught, and it's a beauty.
TSN will show you 4 CFL preseason games before we start playing for keeps on the 23rd. The BC Lions up next. Jonathan Jennings looks like the #1 QB with BC, and Travis Lulay backing him up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That will be on Saturday night. Of course, lots of changes for the Riders in the offseason, led by Chris Jones. Bombers back at it, finishing up the preseason in Ottawa. That'll be Monday at 7 Eastern. And then the Argos, they have a new home. They're in Montreal's home. The Owls finish up their preseason on June the 17th against Toronto at 8 o'clock Eastern time on TSN. This is like having an offense where everyone knows who we're going to, but you just can't stop them anyway because we're going to play 3 downs with Milt Stegall alone. So you know where the ball's going. Just try to stop him. Question number 1. It is first down. We're going to Stegall on this question. Which Bomber acquisition will have the biggest impact? That would be option A, Andrew Harris, B, Weston Dressler, C, Ryan Smith, or you can audible.
Well, I love the players they brought in, but the person I want to talk about is a person who won't step on the field at all, and that's offensive coordinator Paul LaPolice. And I've dealt with Paul as a player in 2001, 2002, 2003, and the past few years we got to work together, and this guy is a very smart coach. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an honest guy, but I'm saying it because I know what I'm talking about. He can coach. If this offense is not successful, it's not on Paul LaPolice. He's going to put all these guys in a position to make plays. Now it's on them to make plays. So we just have to wait and see what happens. But he's the most important acquisition this past offseason.
Okay, and honorable mention, I suppose, to Justin Medlock maybe on that list?
Justin Medlock, yes.
Yeah, absolutely, too.
But we're talking about a kicker, huh? What's going on?
I just figured it's just the two of us. I get to add a little bit. You just want me to shut up and ask the questions, right?
Yeah, this is just set me up and let me go, right?
We're on to second down then. All right, Stiegel. Which Alouette acquisition will have the biggest impact here? Option A, Deron Carter, back with the Owls. Will it be Vernon Adams, a quarterback they give up a first-round pick for? Javon Johnson over from Ottawa, or once again, you can audible, or I'll put up the name Von Martin for you there.
I'm going to go with Von Martin. And a lot of people don't know who this guy is. He was drafted by the Alouettes years ago, and he has been in the NFL doing his thing for the last 6-7 years. But this guy can make a difference, not only because he can play, but he's Canadian, so he takes away another starter. You can put an American somewhere else. If he can stop up that middle, he can mean a lot for this defense, because they're going to need a lot of help when they're dealing with basically a defensive coordinator who doesn't even want to be there. But I'd say Von Miller will make the biggest difference out of everybody.
Or Von Martin.
Or Von Martin, sorry about that.
Absolutely. Third down now. And which of these two teams has the best chance to make the playoffs, would you say? We'll give it A, Winnipeg, B, Montreal.
Winnipeg. They're just not stable in Montreal. You got a head coach who's a great GM, but not a great head coach. You got a defensive coordinator who don't want to be there, and you don't know who your backup quarterback is. In Winnipeg, they're stable, so I give Winnipeg the best chance to make the playoffs.
I'll tell you, with all the change in the West, too, I mean, could be massive upheaval. Yes. You don't know what's going to happen in Saskatchewan as well, with Winnipeg with the changes, with Edmonton, the Grey Cup champions. The Montreal Alouettes, Deron Carter and company. Got a tie game all of a sudden with a late Winnipeg touchdown, second half, getting closer.
First half completed after the CFL's first preseason game of 2016. 13's the score at the half. Here's Mike O'Shea, head coach of the Blue Bombers, with Sarah Orleski.
Mike, that late touchdown at the second quarter has you guys tied going into the third. What stood out to you overall, though, about those opening two quarters?
Well, we had a couple of nice plays called back by penalties, and that's not acceptable. We'll clean those up. Other than that, I thought, a couple of the offensive guys shined pretty well, and defense will, they got to figure out how to get off the field a little quicker this half.
Obviously, a lot of concern for Jeff Keeping as he left the field. Do you have an update on his condition?
No, I don't, but he won't be back this game.
Thanks for this.
Thanks.
Yes, it did not look good. Thank you, Sarah and Mike, for Jeff Keeping. We'll try to keep you updated, and we certainly hope the best for the veteran O-lineman. Dominic Davis coming in as the third Blue Bomber quarterback in this ball game. Drew Willie starting, Matt Nichols, and then Brandon Bridge on the Montreal sideline. We'll see him as well. They got a number of quarterbacks over there. And Kevin Glenn looked awfully good in that first half.
Yeah, Kevin Glenn, very, very sharp. And it'll be kind of fun to see what the tandem of Kevin Glenn and his offensive coordinator, Anthony Calvillo, can come up with. I mean, you've got two of the top passers in CFL history working together to come up with that game plan every week for the Owls.
Glenn must be salivating, too, with the weapons that he has. And he's had a lot of weapons throughout his tenure in the Canadian Football League. But this receiving core in Montreal, if it stays as is, and all the different weapons, the deep threats, the short threats that he has.
Yeah, nice mix of skill sets amongst the veterans there.
Joaquin Cato, you saw him, he looked pretty good, and looks like we're going to see Brandon Bridge out of the chute here in the second half. Getting ready to kick it off here. Morris Beatty will put his leg into it. Quincy McDuffie is back. And do you concur with Milt Stiegel about all the backups that we're going to be seeing here? It is hard to keep track late in the game in particular, and it's really hard if you're one of those players trying to get a moment. And I know try not to do too much, but guess what? You got to try to do too much.
Well, I mean, Mike O'Shea described it well yesterday. He says You don't want to necessarily see guys doing more. Instead, you want to see guys doing their job, and if they have an opportunity to make a play, you want them to make that play.
Line drive kick to Trent Corney. Didn't think he'd have to return a kick, but here's Dominique Davis.
Davis again got a start late last season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Very mobile quarterback. There you saw the numbers, 2 of 3 in the first half. East Carolina grad. Really looking to establish himself. This is a guy who's been around for a couple of years now.
Carlos Anderson had a couple of touches in the first half out of Northern Iowa. Talked about his path here and the couple of times that he's tried. Maybe he'll take a page out of Khalil Bass's book. He was denied 3 times from mini camps. Never had an invitation to come up to Winnipeg. And
Bass
here he is
passed
now.
on by a few different teams in this league before embarking on his outstanding rookie season in 2015 with these Bombers. But Anderson, worked out for the Bombers a few years ago. They didn't sign him. Brought him to camp last year. He had a 93-yard punt return touchdown in a preseason game against Toronto, but was injured, ended up going back home. Back here again for camp this season, as we said earlier, hoping the 3rd time is a charm. This RB out of Northern Iowa.
So it will be 3rd down. Davis will go behind center. Diving ahead, looked like a couple of players were lined up offside and somebody jumped. Those plays have to be tough, particularly when you're bringing in a lot of players who haven't played together at all. 3rd down, you got to line up for those plays, and you're not getting a lot of reps
offside
in training
Montreal
camp.
number 46, 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
It's the kind of thing that you may not get a ton of time to practice during training camp. Contact becoming much more limited than it was in the old days, Rod.
You're not that old. Davis down the sideline, and no flag. Tussling down the sideline. The star Gene, number 72. Guy who spent some time with Houston in the National Football League. Out of Florida Atlantic.
Looked like there may have been an opportunity for Davis to put a little more air under that one, let his big receiver go up over the DB and get it.
Davis goes left side this time and hurls it out.
Well, Addison Richards, the 2nd-year man out of University of Regina, comes back to the ball to make the catch. Big Richards, about 6'4", 220 pounds. It's a good push-up field. With that ball in the air, sits it down, works back to the football as the defender closes.
5 games last year for the Bombers and had 1 catch for 12 yards, and the near side unable to haul that in is Julian Feoli-Godino, former star out of Laval.
We talked about the Bombers building a little bit of depth amongst their Canadians. Look at the receivers, guys like Richards, Feoli-Godino, Rory Collard, all part of that mix. Chris Bastian as well out of Concordia, now in his 3rd season in the league.
Wide right is Feoli-Godino, but Davis calls his own number, and it's a good number. 1st down, Winnipeg. Slide into second base up near the 35-yard line. Crowd likes that.
Nice execution here. You're going to see things open up right up the middle. Well executed draw. There it is. You'll see Davis start to bend this one back a little bit away from the defender. Recognizes where 1st down yardage is and gets down to avoid taking an unnecessary hit.
11-yard scamper. And Davis is swarmed. Lose yards this time. Sacked in the backfield. Leading the charge, Jared Coster. New Mexico Highlands.
Big swarm here. Coster, a guy who started his college career at UCLA before transferring to New Mexico Highlands.
Second and long for Davis. Steps up. Will he take off? Yes, he will. A cutback, a spin, and boy, avoided getting mashed that time. Didn't get to the original line of scrimmage. And this Montreal defense, always formidable. Keep in mind that they left their star linebackers all back in Montreal. Winston Venable, Chip Cox, and a healthy Bear Woods. And those are three very important words, healthy Bear Woods.
Yeah, well, you look at all of those guys being healthy and you consider the depth of this group. I mean, Kaye Bear healthy again. Guy who missed a little bit of time. Obviously Bear Woods. Kyler Ellsworth healthy and dressed tonight. Guy who filled in for Bear Woods last year until he got hurt.
Sergio Castillo looks to the skies. 2 for 3 tonight. Bombers surge in front. Stream the best of TV all in one place. Crave TV, now available to everybody. Start your 1-month trial. CFL preseason football tonight. First game of the preseason schedule, a couple of weeks before the 2016 CFL season kicks off. And the journey begins in earnest. Now it's time to get your rosters down, evaluate, see if all these free agent signings will work out, keep everybody healthy. Name of the game the next couple of weeks. Cale Davidson. Fumble the football, and Winnipeg say they have it. Crowd thinks they have it. The men in stripes say they have it. Blue Bombers get the football. That's Julian Fioli-Godino. Downfield very quickly on special teams.
A big swing here for the Bombers, getting the football early in this second half.
Fioli-Godino jumping on it at the last moment. Bombers take over once again, and back at work. 32-yard line. Into the game at quarterback now, the fourth quarterback for the Bombers tonight. Ryan Bennett. Grenada Hills, California, Southeast Louisiana. Also played in Oregon. Played behind Marcus Mariota.
A lot of connections between these quarterbacks moving around, as Vernon Adams, of course, on the Montreal roster tonight, moved from Eastern Washington to Oregon to replace Mariota once he moved on to the NFL.
And it fires, almost. Hauled in by Addison Richards, the second-round pick of the Bombers last year.
Now Brian Bennett, once he transferred to Southeastern Louisiana, he actually finished 8th in the voting for the 2013 Walter Payton Award, top player in FCS football. Vernon Adams was second in that vote, as he was at Eastern Washington. Tim Flanders, who we've seen in this ball game at running back for Winnipeg, I believe finished 13th in the voting that year.
Sergio Castillo missed his first tonight and has been perfect since. Bombers convert points from that turnover. 19-13 tonight.
We'll take a look back at the injury to Bombers veteran center Jeff Keeping. Suffered in that second quarter as his left guard, Jamarcus Hardrick, was knocked into the outside of his leg.
Let's go down to Sarah with an update.
brought obviously a lot of concern when he had to be helped off the field and then to the dressing room. The initial concern was that it was an ACL injury, but they are optimistic that is not the case. And while they still have to have him undergo tests, it is believed that this injury will not be as severe as what was originally thought.
Well, let's hope so. That is good news. Thank you, Sarah, for Jeff Keeping. Now Brandon Bridge in the game for the Alouettes. They go through their quarterback carousel. Penalty flag. Brandon Bridge, who around a year ago, you and I were center field before the Alouettes pre-game talking to him. He was going to do some holding.
Yeah,
he thought.
That's all he had planned for the night. He's going to hold a little bit. All of a sudden, third quarter, he's trying to lead his team to victory over the
illegal interference,
Ottawa Red Blacks.
blocking downfield. Montreal number 87, 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
And as he told us the next week, he said that's the lesson in football, lesson in life. Always be ready. And this kid is ready. He's ready for prime time in so many ways. Been waiting for him in Canada to be that next great Canadian quarterback. A long time coming. It looks like he could be that guy.
Yeah, and a lot of credit to the Montreal Alouettes, an organization really more than any other in the Canadian Football League, trying to make a contribution to the development of Canadian QBs.
Oh, what a move by Bridge. Keep in mind, Brandon Bridge is one of the tallest quarterbacks, certainly in the CFL. Tops out around 6 feet 5 inches. Could be a power forward in the NBA.
Here matches up pretty well. The defensive end, Andrew Robinson's about 230. Bridge in that same range at 6'5", about 2 1/4. The QB shakes that one off. Boyd's taking a bigger loss.
Hand off in the backfield and swarmed under.
Mr. Robinson gets the last laugh on that one. Great job holding the line as the Bomber defense flattened things out on the attempted draw play from the Owls. Nowhere to run for Jewel Hampton.
He goes east-west and north-south as good as any rookie running back we've seen, but not this time. Had a couple of big plays, busted one early in the ballgame. Speedy coming off an all-star season, East Division. Because of this towering kick. McDuffie. Downfield very quickly, though. Alouettes corral him. James Tuck knocks him down. Bomber numbers were supposed to be offensive. They were in so many ways last year. Look at that. But more, here's Sarah.
Well, I spoke, Rod, to Paul Lapalisse, new offensive coordinator, former TSN coach and analyst, and I spoke to him before the game. He admitted that he was a little bit nervous going into this game. He said it's been a number of years, obviously, since he was coaching, and he said that he hasn't called a game since 2011. He's down on the sidelines here today. The plan for the second preseason game as of now is for him to be up in the booth, and then he'll decide which way he wants to go with it. But because they have iPads now on the sidelines, he said that he may stay down on the field because he's able to deal then with players directly face to face. When speaking with players so far on this offensive side of the ball, they are excited about what Paul Lapalisse is trying to implement here. One of the veterans saying that with the verbiage here, it's simple, it's clear, everyone is able to be on the same page.
Thank you, Sarah, as Carlos Anderson busts it up the middle. I think Lapo got all that technology from those TSN halftime shows, playbook?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
No, in all seriousness, Lapo is a guy who is always, I mean, he's a professional coach, and he, as much as he spent the last couple of years working in this dead-end job, he's
here it is, coach's playbook.
Yes, sir. But I mean, Lapo he's a professional coach, and he's a guy who has always taken that craft very seriously and always kind of following whatever the trends are, whatever the cutting-edge things are in coaching. And now
what a shake
back to the sidelines.
You see that shake, Dwayne, by Quincy McDuffie, the straight arm as well. Wow. Had a feeling something bad would happen out there to Montreal one-on-one.
Yeah, well, McDuffie is one of those guys, primarily a kick returner in this league, one of those guys who's great in space, and so that's how you try to get him the ball. Absolutely freezing his defender there. Turned it upfield to pick up 17 on the play.
Anderson swallowed up at the line of scrimmage.
It'll be interesting to see which way Winnipeg goes with some of its decisions in terms of that receiving core, though, when you figure that really the locks for starting positions, Weston Dressler, Ryan Smith, smaller guys. You know, they let Clarence Denmark, another slot, go, their longest serving receiver, I'm sure in part because of concerns that you couldn't have too many little guys in the receiving core. So you got to believe some of the bigger receivers may have an edge when it comes down to deciding those jobs. But in the meantime, guys like Quincy McDuffie, Justin Veltung doing a great
4-yard pickup for Bennett. They've brought in some taller bodies in the last couple of years as targets. Problem was keeping quarterbacks healthy in Winnipeg. Here comes Castillo once again. He's had a great night after missing his first. Has piled up 3 in a row, and this one's a long one from just inside the 50-yard line. Teague Sherman is supplying the hold. Here is the kick, and this is looking good. Castillo. Wow. Came in late last season, 10 of 13. Bombers went and got Justin Medlock. Maybe his job's not a lock. TSN's coverage of UEFA Euro 2016 begins Friday as France takes on Romania. Action gets underway 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific across the TSN network. Oh, yes. Gotta get some of those masks.
The luchador masks?
The luchadors. I tell you, you see some of the fans here. And it's a story that's been told a little bit about the Blue Bombers, but how about those uniforms coming back to the old blue and gold?
Yeah, I would say that the royal blue is a big hit here in Winnipeg. Very sharp, very bold. I like them.
Back to the old days in the 80s, they used to wear this. A little darker. Blue and gold. Days of Dieter Brock.
There's Dieter now.
Sure, Dieter didn't appreciate that.
Was that not him?
It's preseason, I know, but that was a little out of line. Well, of course, offseason is not only about free agent acquisitions, it's also about the CFL draft. Alouettes had a second selection, chose Philippe Gagnon, offensive lineman out of Laval.
And never a big surprise to see the Alouettes go O-line. Gagnon started this game. Big man, bench press champion of the 2016 CFL Combine. We expect here in the second half to get a look at their second round pick. Running back Wade Moore out of McMaster. Toronto area guy, Sean Jameson, Matthew Toppin. A couple more offensive linemen from the class of 2016. The ball game right now, but there you see Philippe Gagnon, the number 2 overall pick. I was in an elevator with him yesterday.
Was there much space?
There was not. I felt very claustrophobic. It was just me and him.
Cam McDaniels in the backfield with Bridge, and now there's a penalty flag movement on the line. Let's see what this is about. Chandler Jones, who has a touchdown in this game, like he might have been offside.
Holding, 64, Montreal, decline. Offside, 80, Montreal, decline. Be third down.
Double whammy.
That'll bring on the Montreal punt team. We see Kyle Graves, the former Acadia quarterback, turned Alouettes receiver, now turned Alouettes punter. On to boot the ball in place of Boris Beattie. Very good punter in college. Jim Pop talked yesterday about Graves and his versatility.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, how well this guy knows the game. He first came to his first Alouettes training camp a few years ago as a quarterback. Eventually made the move to receiver. Terrific athlete. The slam dunk champion in high school in Barrie, Ontario. Knows all the receiver positions. You can plug him in anywhere.
39-yard kick. Anderson brought down near the 26. And this is a good chance in the preseason. I mean, nobody's taking Boris Beattie's job away. That guy's foot is ridiculous. But you never know when you may need someone to step up. And Kyle Graves does that. You talk about versatility. He is versatility plus.
Yeah, absolutely. As you alluded to, Ron, I mean, what better place to get a guy game reps, you know, facing those live bullets than during the preseason. Yeah, you want to win, but you also want to use these games to prepare your team for the regular season.
Dominic Davis comes back in. Minute 40 to go in the quarter. Long toss, and it's caught by McDuffie. What a toss by Davis. Took a couple of sequences off, comes back in the game, and lands a bullet.
And he lays this one in perfectly to McDuffie. And the former Tiger Cat receiver making a bit of a case for more permanent employment here in Winnipeg. Nice touch pass. And the third-year quarterback, Davis to McDuffie, connecting for 37.
Over to Carlos Anderson. Dominic Davis played some preseason last year with the Calgary Stampeders. Began his college career, Boston College, under Matt Ryan. As a matter of fact, they were reunited in Atlanta, as a matter of fact, a little bit later. Davis had a couple of stints in the National Football League and now comes north to Canada, hoping to land a spot. He's been impressive in his time here tonight. Needs to shine. Look out, though. Davis now skipping around, spinning around, and down he goes. James Badanis, Michigan State with the sack.
James Badanis, Toronto area native, working on the inside of that defense. This is a guy who played his first 3 years at the University of Toronto and then transferred down to Michigan State for his last couple of seasons. Primarily a defensive lineman, actually got some reps on the O-line, was drafted as an O-lineman, took reps on both sides of the ball last year for the Owls, and they've decided to give him a shot on D. Jim Pop feeling that that's his most natural position. Very athletic guy, played a little bit of junior hockey growing up as well.
Punt by Justin Medlock sails out of bounds in the final play of the third quarter. A quarter dominated by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Preseason football
Legally
continues
on a kick.
after
Winnipeg
this.
number 38.
So a penalty will mean a reboot of the final play of the third quarter. And a drop football, but it's finally picked up again, and so now the third quarter officially ends. Blue Bombers leading after 3. We'll take a look at those numbers. For some, numbers meaning absolutely nothing because a chance to make the grade. Others want to keep their jobs as we get closer to the start of the 2016 CFL season. 22-13 Winnipeg Blue Bombers over the Montreal Alouettes. What have you seen tonight that, if you were a coach or a scout, that impressed you so far?
Well, as I just talked about in the third quarter, Quincy McDuffie is one of those guys that when you talk about wanting to see guys when they're given an opportunity to make a play, they make a play. for me, he's been one of those guys. You're going to get limited touches. There are only so many footballs to go around in the course of a ball game, and a lot of receivers, a lot of running backs, a lot of quarterbacks looking for those touches. But he's a guy who has made the most of those touches, looking for an opportunity to stick and find a little more permanent action than he saw in him.
Saw some good work by Kevin Glenn early on. Rakeem Cato also looked good. Brandon Bridge in the game for Montreal. Dominic Davis impressed as well for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, Davis doing a nice job, definitely demonstrating his mobility, but threw a couple of nice balls there as well.
So evaluation time for everybody here, and Jim Popp said it to Sarah, all the things that they're looking at as they try to pare this roster down. And for a lot of teams in the Canadian Football League, you're watching games like this because you might see someone here that might impress you, and then next thing you know, you're jettisoning them into your city.
Well, that's absolutely the thing. When you talk about a guy, for example, like Sergio Castillo, who's had a good night here, and
he's not taking Justin Medlock's job.
It's fairly obvious that Justin Medlock is going to be the kicker for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but there are 8 other teams in this league that you never know what may happen, whether it's coming out of training camp or at some point during the season where somebody may require a kicker, and a kicker who knows and understands the CFL rules. You acquit yourself well, and you may be the first guy to get a phone call.
And as we saw early last season, if you recall, how many kickers some teams went through because of injury. Remember what Ottawa went through early on.
Yeah, I mean, whether injury or whether performance related, the kicking game is so important in this league. Sometimes it can be very difficult to ride out a tough streak for a kicker, to ride out a slump.
So now, Vernon Adams into the ballgame. We have whistles. Catch made by Chandler Jones, but Vernon Adams comes into the game, much coveted. Montreal gave up a first-round pick for this man. And a lot of people have been talking about him. Now we get a chance to see him in a CFL uniform.
Offside, Montreal number 45. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Winnipeg number 29. We'll bounce those at the previous line of scrimmage. Automatic first down.
Well, you talk about Vernon Adams, and yeah, definitely the guy who has been the most talked about American rookie coming into a CFL training camp this year. Very highly regarded guy. Finalist multiple times for the Walter Payton Award during his time at Eastern Washington. He's become something of a quarterback factory for the Canadian Football League. Graduated from there and transferred to spend his final season of eligibility at Oregon last year, stepping up a level in competition. One of the rare players to do that. Won the starting job at Oregon, hoping for an NFL shot. Worked out a little bit, but ultimately looked to come north. The BC Lions had him on their negotiation list for the last few years. Those teams couldn't come to an agreement. And in a situation you don't often see, a team giving up a first-round pick in the Canadian draft to get an American neg-list player. The Alouettes did it because that's how strongly they felt about the potential of Vernon Adams Jr.
Well, a lot of potential in that backfield right now. Cam McDaniel, number 33, out of Notre Dame. Raised some eyebrows as well. Getting some touches here, along with Adams at quarterback now.
Many people see Vernon Adams as a prototypical Canadian Football League true dual threat quarterback.
Well, that's not going to help. Picked off. Wobbler. Winnipeg Blue Bombers have it. Kevin Fogg with the interception. Here's a look. And it was tipped. Well, a draft pick out of Western makes his big presence felt, Dwayne.
Yep, big Rupert Butcher. Guy who I think may be something of a later round steal for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at defensive tackle. Got a good push, got a hand on that one. Garrett Wagner Guy who the Bombers picked in the supplemental draft last year, which led to them forfeiting their first-round pick in this year's draft. The guy who comes up with the INT. Ivy League star at Dartmouth.
Giving Dominic Davis some more looks here as Addison Richards brings that in on the far sideline. It's like about 8 yards.
And I think it's safe to say Dominic Davis getting every opportunity to earn more permanent employment.
Well, here is a gentleman earning some employment from down south. Connection now with the National Football League. Alan Eck working as a side judge, works in the NFL.
Yeah, sort of an exchange program, if you will, going on here between officials from the two leagues. A few officials from the NFL coming up to work the first portion of this CFL season. A handful of CFL officials will go through NFL training camps and so on this year. A lot of information exchanged between the leagues in terms of some rules, best practices, etc.
Handing it up the middle. Scooting away was Flanders. Alan Eck also works some Big 12 games. Has to be a little bit different, though. You'd have to think from an official's point of view from down south coming up here. You'd have to get the rule book out, watch a little video, know that, oh, wait a second, they got an extra down. Oh, yeah, and a much bigger field.
Yeah, well, different flow to the game, certainly. These guys have been through the officials training camp.
There goes Flanders. He's pretty good.
Thanks, Rod. Flanders, a Kansas State transfer to Sam Houston State University, as you said. Spent a little bit of time with the BC Lions. Because of the flexibility that the Bombers have in terms of the ratio, really having more than 7 Canadians who could start, they will be able to back up Andrew Harris with an American. So this is where you see guys like Carlos Anderson and Tim Flanders looking for employment here. The Bombers actually don't have a Canadian backup running back on their roster.
How excited must this young man be? And Andrew Harris loved it being in BC. And think back to 2011 when he was the most outstanding Canadian in the Grey Cup against Winnipeg in BC. And it was kind of his coming out party in many ways.
Holding, Montreal number 51. Offside, Winnipeg number 59. We'll bounce those at the previous line of scrimmage. First down.
American, Canadian, whatever. Andrew Harris, one of the bona fide stars here in the Canadian Football League. Talked to Andrew briefly yesterday, and he talked about how good it feels to be home.
Challenge for a lot of players if they can handle that, but he's always talked about it. Comes back here in the offseason. Spectator now in this preseason game. Davis looks, and McDuffie had it in his hands, and it is picked off. Alouettes have it. Dominic Termanson out of UBC has the interception. McDuffie had it in his hands.
Termanson, one of the stars of UBC's Vanier Cup championship team. Very athletic DB, a guy who earned his way to the main CFL Combine this year after an outstanding performance at the West Regional in Edmonton. And a chance to play back there at free safety as a corner
Shout out to my mom
in
back
college.
home. Jessica, I love you.
What a thrilling ride it's been for Termanson. Vanier Cup win, and now in the CFL. So a long field here. 109 to go for the Alouettes. Adams hands it off to McDaniel. Chased down now, and Cam McDaniel barrels out close to a first down. It looks like they're going to give it to him. Getting him and his teammates out of a hole here.
Take a look at a little bit of the resume of quarterback Vernon Adams. And this may be the most impressive of all his numbers.
Wow.
136 touchdown passes versus only 37 picks in his 4 seasons.
There's a completed pass, has thrown a pick here tonight, but at the same time was tipped at the line of scrimmage, and it is preseason football. Catch made by Corbin Lukes of Nevada.
Lukes, one of those neat stories as well for the Alouettes. A guy who's been a real football journeyman. There you see a look at one of my guys, Rupert Butcher. Man mountain.
That is a mammoth human being. Trying to make it with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Butcher drafted in the 6th round. Look out, Vernon Adams. Chased down now, and likely a holding call here. Knocked out of bounds. Vernon Adams getting his taste of the Canadian Football League here tonight.
Take a look.
Holding. Montreal number 57. That penalty be declined. 3rd down.
Well, there will be mixed emotions for Rupert Butcher here as he draws the penalty, as he's trying to make the team. But the guy who gets called for the penalty is actually his buddy and college teammate Sean Jamieson, an Alouette draft pick. So a couple guys that have gone head-to-head a whole lot over the course of the last 4 years apparently just can't get away from each other here in the Canadian Football League.
Flash of the Mustangs. Beatty. And get his team out of a hole. A heavy kick. Carlos Anderson now cutting back, and a couple of side steps. Dodges one, but not another. 46-yard boot. It's Rupert Butcher. The big man. CFL preseason football continues on TSN. Well, the U.S. Open, one of golf's majors, tees off Thursday, June 16th. First round action. Catch it at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on TSN 1 and 3, presented by Freedom 55 Financial at Oakmont, just outside of Pittsburgh. A lot of history at that golf course. And Al Cabrera last time, 7 winning that event. Another thriller. Bennett's back at quarterback. They go back and forth, and a heavy hit downfield. Gerard Shepard unable to hang on. She was belted.
Pretty good shot there from the Alouette defender. This throw just half step behind the receiver.
Boom.
Unable to adjust. And then Boulay lowers the boom.
Bennett again. Shovels it off. Look out now. What a half of football this young man's had. Flanders does it again. 22-yard pickup. Bennett just dishes it off here.
And with the Alouette defense starting to tee off a little bit, getting aggressive with that pass rush. Well-timed screen play to the running back Flanders. Turns into a big gain. Victor Hampton with a big hit. Bring him down.
Kevin Cone in motion. They'll give it off to Flanders again. And both Flanders and Anderson have shown some tonight here. It's been kind of a pick-em between the two of them, but Flanders maybe has a little more real estate. Some spectacular plays here in this second half. It is tough to pick a team, isn't it?
Well, it really is. I mean, short training camps, only 2 preseason games. You got to use a fair bit of that second game to get your starters ready for week 1. So for guys really trying to earn jobs, the opportunities are limited. Got to make the most of it.
An overthrow by Bennett and a penalty flag. Interference downfield. Once again looking for Shepard. Greg Henderson saying,
well, Jim Pop has already challenged
pass interference. Montreal number 19. Point of foul, automatic, first down.
they'll likely throw the yellow challenge flag, even though it's preseason.
Keep an eye on the number 3 receiver here, Mr. Shepard.
Greg Henderson with him. The other 19.
Montreal is challenging the ruling of pass interference. We'll review the play.
I would contend that that ball's not catchable.
And I think that has to be, and I'm sure it is quite often, but sometimes we have felt, I know you have felt, that if it's not catchable, it should be a penalty.
Shouldn't be a penalty, Rod. Not a penalty.
We shall see. I thought that, you know, when you talk about preseason football in that second game and how important it is, when you look back at your career or even like watching some of the players now, is there a different mindset going into that second preseason game before you have to get ready for the regular season?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for veteran players in particular, and you know, I mean, you heard it talked about a little bit in the pregame. It obviously depends on what your situation is with your given team, but certain guys go into the preseason with their jobs very secure. They're going to make the team. They're going to be on the roster. In those instances, yeah, a lot of times in the first game, you just want to go out, play a little bit, kind of shake the rust off, get in a little bit of a rhythm, and you're good. But the second game, you definitely need to get in a little bit more of a flow, and you need to play enough to start getting yourself into some kind of game shape. See, there's no way to get into football game shape without actually playing football. And so I would say typically in that second game as a veteran starter, you want to get in at least a half of football where you're going for an extended time without an abnormally long break, we'll call it.
After review, we have illegal contact, Montreal number 19. That'll be a 10-yard penalty from the 38-yard line. It'll be first down.
And that's the more accurate call. There's no question contact was made.
In that 5-yard area.
Yeah, beyond 5 yards.
Right there.
Yeah, see, and so this is part of the review process. When you're reviewing for pass interference, any of those other calls, we talked about this in the first half, illegal contact, offensive pass interference. If those things are instead detected, then those are the things the call could be changed to.
That illegal contact call coming into the league last year, of course, the 5-yard area where you can have contact within 5 yards, but after that you can't touch the player. A lot of calls last year of that ilk. Bennett takes off. Great move here and slides down at the 13-yard line, and Brian Bennett comes in and shows some stuff, makes a nice move right in midfield.
Yeah, it was a great lateral move on the middle linebacker, Kyler Ellsworth, as he got to second level here. Just a hard cut to the outside to gain a little ground and then turned it upfield again for that first down.
Bombers 1 for 2 in the red zone inside the 20-yard line tonight. Bennett now just lobs it to the end zone. It's up for grabs, and
got a flag.
And it's Henderson again.
Pass interference. Montreal number 19 in goal. Ball will be placed at the 1-yard line. Automatic first down.
Here's the duel taking place as they head towards the corner. Henderson in coverage. Again with his back turned, essentially runs through the receiver who's trying to fight back to the football.
Julian Talley, the intended target, and it's a touchdown, but there's a penalty flag. Bennett calls his own number. Penalties piling up on the Montreal Alouettes.
Offside, Montreal number 68. That penalty is declined. Touchdown.
Almost 150 yards in penalties. Something that they most assuredly will have to shore up in the next couple of weeks. Brian Bennett can walk in here.
There you see the Alouette defender. That hand in the neutral zone. A bit of a freebie, but Brian Bennett punches it in the first time. Well executed. Good call.
Castillo. And another flag in the end zone. What was this? Were they counting up players here?
It's too easy.
Too many
Too
men.
many men. Montreal. That penalty is declined. Convert is good.
Well, some of the disorganization that comes from preseason football, and 2 penalties to that guy cost the Alouettes. Bombers open it up with 5 minutes to go. Paul LaPolice and Brian Bennett, 4th on the depth chart right now. Brian Bennett, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but touchdown certainly will help his cause as he tries to find a job in the Canadian Football League. He too had his moments.
Yeah, both Bennett and Dominique Davis getting extensive action here in the second half of this ball game. Battling it out for the number 3 job.
Alouettes led early. Cam McDaniel fights his way and does a flip. Wants to take off. Heels overhead at the 30-yard line. So now in these final moments, you're going to probably see some more picks here. Draft picks, that is. Vernon Adams still in the ball game. And Jim Popp is going to take some long looks at this young man. You talked about it, Dwayne. People have been talking about him. In fact, Jim Popp has paid him some extraordinary compliments. He has skill sets that remind him of people like Doug Flutie and other prototypical CFL quarterbacks. Again, an arm on him. Adams pass again, that time an arm on arm. And the learning curve is not steep in the Canadian Football League.
I just want to take a minute here and go back to the last kick return. And there you see at the top part of that circle, one of my favorite guys in the CFL draft, number 39, Wayne Moore, running back from McMaster, absolutely flattening his guy. You know, I want to take this chance to talk a little bit about Wayne. He was the last guy picked just as our coverage, TV coverage of the first part of the draft went off air. So I didn't get a chance to talk about a guy that I've known this kid since he was in high school, has worked his butt off to be at this point. Great career at McMaster, a guy that Jim Popp describes as the most pro-ready running back in the draft, and says an outstanding special teams player as well, and that's going to put him in great position to earn a spot on this roster, and you saw exactly why with that block, just laying out the Winnipeg defender.
Yeah, he wasn't really watching the draft that day. Said he kind of was going to watch the tape a little bit later and kind of heard his name, but wasn't sure if it was him or not.
Yeah, watching with family, everybody went a little bit nuts. They got as far as Wayne, and then they could barely hear the last name. The guy I'm really happy to see get an opportunity here in the CFL.
Kyle Graves again, moving this back to Quincy McDuffie. 4 minutes to go here. McDuffie's got some room. Look out! And taken out of bounds by that kicker slash receiver slash back slash quarterback, Kyle Graves.
More you can do. Kyle Graves, a guy who's hasn't really found a regular spot on this, the Montreal 44-man active roster. But the Owls recognizing his value, trying to give him every opportunity. Another big play for McDuffie, one of those names it seems we've called a lot over the course of this ballgame.
Taken off once more. Well, if this is an audition. Tim Flanders is winning right now.
Well, Tim Flanders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers offensive line. Nice job creating a lane here, getting up to second level. You see Flanders not touched until he's about 15, 18 yards downfield.
Sam Houston State back, takes it again, spins around, there he goes, and down he goes at the 28. Greg Henderson brings him down. 3 minutes remain in this preseason game. Warning given to both sidelines, and we'll come back to the Manitoba Capital. Well, we're a couple of weeks away. June 23rd, it all kicks off. Thursday Night Football from BMO Field. Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Argos, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, TSN Network, and on 4K, presented by The Brick. Shawarma Khan.
Love that place.
Love
Shawarma Khan. You made a little stop there.
See, okay, see that right there? Hang on, where is it?
Well, it's right here.
There, Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan.
That's, and okay, folks, I just want to say, Dwayne Ford crushed 2 Wrath of Khans pregame.
Yeah, thanks to our buddy Obby.
Oh, what a catch! And a touchdown! How about that? Fred Williams. You've made the highlight reel. Who says it's only preseason football?
A beautiful connection here. Little throw behind by Bennett. Nice adjustment to the football by Williams. Outside release, ball's coming outside. Perfect placement, perfect catch. In for the major.
Fred Williams trying to make this squad out of St. Cloud State. That's the first time a ball was thrown in his direction tonight. Spent some time on the Kansas City Chiefs practice roster, 2 seasons in the Arena Football League. And Sergio Castillo, his arms are sore. Not only his leg, he extends those arms every time. He's had a near perfect night. Fred Williams saying hi to our folks down in the United States tonight, watching on ESPN3. That's some good stuff.
A beautiful throw from Brian Bennett. Nice concentration there from Fred Williams.
Think about the decisions, and this is all what it's about the next couple of weeks. Decisions you have as a coach, as a management team. Drew Willey's your #1 guy. Matt Nichols, you would think, is your legitimate backup. Dominic Davis showed well here tonight. Brian Bennett, it was like a horse racer. He's nipping right at the heels. He comes in and does that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the challenge, and Mike O'Shea acknowledged that as much as more of the balance next week shifts from evaluation to preparation for the regular season, but acknowledged that there will still be some evaluation that will have to take place next week. They don't really have to make any cuts between the 2 preseason games. You can essentially wait until after the next game to make all of those decisions. But, you know, here you've got one of the tightest battles between your #3 and #4 quarterbacks. But you got to give #1 and #2 the lion's share of the playing time next week.
Well, a team that's starving. The longest drought in the CFL of winning a Grey Cup belongs to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, if you consider Ottawa as well, obviously back in the league. But it's been a long time, since the early 90s. Another new quarterback into the ball game. One of the 7 that the Alouettes brought is Drew Burko. Burko flings it off to Marlon Morris.
The Alouettes, I talked earlier in this ball game about their commitment to developing Canadian quarterbacks, so they brought a number of CIS quarterbacks into camp. Drew Burko from the University of Saskatchewan being one of those. He's a guy who has another year of eligibility, will return to school Jimmy Underdahl from University of Calgary here as well. They wanted to make sure, even though these guys may get a little bit of action next week, they wanted to make sure that they brought these young guys along to give them the experience of a CFL road trip. Let them get the full training camp experience here. I suspect that Burko may have some family and friends who have made the trek.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Winnipeg number 51. 15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Well, Drew Burko getting a sense of how they hit in the CFL as well, and roughing the passer, so Burko will keep this drive going.
Well, you see John Rush, at University of Guelph, President's Trophy winner, is the nation's top defensive player. He's coming from depth at the right side of your screen.
Burko in shotgun. Heaves one, but no one home. Talked about John Rush and President's Trophy and the connection with Guelph. Well, the last Griffin to win that President's Trophy as the top defensive player in the CIS, who played at Guelph, pretty close to him right now.
They've had a little bit of a connection in terms of helping him get a job.
Mike O'Shea is head coach.
First round CFL pick back in 1993.
Second down, Burko is drilled. Blindsided. Welcome to the CFL, young man, from Teague Sherman for Manitoba Bison.
Sherman unblocked around the edge, complete blindside hit. Miscommunication, no doubt, in terms of the protection. If you're going to leave a free guy, that free guy's got to be on the front side where the quarterback can see him and read him for a hot throw.
Kyle Graves again. Carlos Anderson and James Tuck downfield quickly. The preseason continues on TSN. We have 3 more broadcasts. In Saskatchewan on Saturday night, BC Lions, Wally Buono's back on the sideline. Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Ottawa, nation's capital, will be out there next Monday night. Dwayne, Red Blacks, the defending Eastern Division champions, and then the Argos and Montreal June 17th. And then it all gets underway June 23rd, opening night. You know, you look at the big picture of what happened in the offseason. Have you ever seen so many changes? The winds of change blew almost every team. So many different players, so many big names changing cities.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's an ongoing topic of discussion. I'm a believer that the CFL needs to reform its free agency system, put in place some restricted free agency, particularly for guys who are early in their career, as you know, teams invest time and money in developing guys and essentially then lose them for nothing. I think you've got to put a system in place that allows teams to get guys at least into that second contract where you get something, see the returns of your investment. But aside from that, so many changes outside of the playing field, coaches moving around and so on.
Well, it's all started really with a Chris Jones move right after the Grey Cup, and that set off this seismic shift.
Mike O'Shea, the only West Division head coach who's still the same place he was a year ago.
You know, I agree with you about the free agent thing. You know, you think about the romance of this smaller league in Canada through the years and the history of it, and what fans become enchanted with their community teams is there's continuity and players stick around, and you know you have heroes to cheer for, but sometimes it becomes a business.
Yeah, and I mean, a football career is short. You can't fault players for wanting to make that move.
I think this is a record tonight, by the way, having 3 Canadian quarterbacks for one team, the underall. sixth quarterback for the Alouettes, and we have an interference call. The lefty comes into the game now. Calgary Dino, Jimmy U.
And
pass interference. Winnipeg number 39. Spot a foul, automatic, first down.
Underdahl is a guy who's flown under the radar because of the quarterbacks that have played ahead of him during his time at University of Calgary. This is a highly recruited guy. But then you have outstanding guys, Eric Dulesky, Andrew Buckley, end up playing ahead of him. So he's been waiting for an opportunity to play, but has hung around, has turned down opportunities to transfer to stay at U of C. So he'll go back there this fall for his 5th season. Expected to be the starter then.
Kyle Graves, one quarterback to a former CIS quarterback in Acadia.
And I mean, ironically, Kyle Graves was a guy who attended his first Alouette training camp as part of the same initiative by the Owls. The league has put in place a program by which teams have the option of bringing in a Canadian quarterback.
Not every team does.
Yeah, I mean, as Jim Popp says, and I agree 100%, teams should be mandated to bring guys in and to develop them and to give them reps and give them an opportunity to play at least a series during the preseason. You know, so that there is true development, not just standing there watching or holding a clipboard or what have you during training camp.
Because the argument, not an argument, but the discussion we have always had is about that Canadian quarterback that's on the horizon. And you have Brandon Bridge, but yes, he has been U.S. trained for the most part, and others. Jesse Palmer, of course, went down, and there have been these flashes. But a Canadian quarterback, a CS quarterback, many of them haven't been given much of a chance.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of them look and see no future in it. So
they switch positions.
Switch positions or don't necessarily have the same commitment to trying to get there because the opportunity is limited. And I'm not one I've never really been in favor of mandating spots for Canadian quarterbacks on the roster, but what I am in favor of is the Canadian Football League doing everything in its power to put these guys in the best position to compete, to play quarterback in this league, and so that's all about development.
You know what helps development too is when a Kevin Glenn comes out right there to offer some encouragement.
Kevin Glenn, Nick Lewis, Keep Cato over there as well. You see all these guys.
Nick Lewis, you know what he's saying?
Canadian guys.
Nick Lewis is saying, "Hey, that's my number."
Nick Lewis is saying, "I didn't know they made that number 8 jersey smaller than a double XL."
It's KG getting ready for another season.
You see the first guy to come and talk to Jimmy Underdahl as he gets to the sideline.
And you know what it does too, Dwayne, and I'm sure for a player, and you know what, yeah, you might have a couple of incompletions, but you can go out, get a chance to say, hey, you know something? They're all human, and you can take it back to your CIS game and grow some confidence.
Yeah.
They've taken a real long, hard look at this young man tonight. Flanders, Dominic Davis as well, Brian Bennett.
Plenty of competition.
That's what you want
here in Winnipeg. There's no doubt. That's what you need.
20 seconds to go. The Bombers, by the way, and I know it's only preseason, but they have to be boosted by the fact that they were down 13-3 in this game, Dwayne. They have outscored the Alouettes 33-0 since that time. And poured it on. Lamented the Blue Bombers last year was their lack of offense. Mike O'Shea's talked about creating that culture in Winnipeg of winning football. And I know it's preseason, but a win is a win. Blue Bombers will take it. Preseason test number 1 out of the way. Kevin Glenn looked really good for the Alouettes early on. 36-13 is the final here tonight. Chance to look at some of the free agents, some of the future stars, some of the draft picks. That's what preseason football is all about. Bombers win tonight on their home field. Football is back. Sports Center is here. Here's Dutch and Natasha.